Hello and welcome to another edition of In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. I am James Lott Jr. and I'm talking to someone who has a book out, a children's book, and it's a cute. I read it. And it's a very cute book. It's called Silas and Sophie, and he co-wrote it with Travis Ziegler, which I want to make sure I give him a shout out. And it was also illustrated. And this guy has been around a long time, starting in television commercials at age 3, to doing acting and the degree in journalism, being in the soap world. And now he's on a new journey with this book. And I appreciate anyone who does stuff that's different later in life, because I'm a person who does stuff later in life too, just having celebrated a birthday. I understand how that goes. So let me introduce you guys to Mark Edward Wilows. Hi, Mark Edward.
Thank you. Hey, James, what an honor it is to be here. Yes, that is very true. I am never a quitter. The word retire just does not exist anywhere. I believe in going as long as God willing and the heart is beating. Why not? You have something to offer. And believe it or not, I have always wanted to write a children's book. It only took me 30 years to do so. And one day I just got together with Travis and I said, you know what? I have this idea. And we came up with a plot and that's it. And one thing just developed. And I will tell you, it is very exciting to write a book. The procedure has been wonderful. It is out with Barnes & Noble, dealing with a publisher, doing whatever, dealing with an illustrator. She would draw the photo according to the page. It would come back to us. Nothing was done without our approval. And it was just so great to do. And when the book came out, I just was so pleased. And it's doing very well. The kids love it. And I have adults calling and telling me they love it.
Okay, we want childlike stuff these days, and now especially nowadays. So let's go backwards. So first of all, show the book. You have the book in your hand.
Okay. Here it is.
So that's the actual book.
Silas and Sophie. I just want to show you quickly one of the illustrations. As you see, very pretty on the inside. She did beautiful work. And it is the story, without giving out the whole story, it is about a little farm boy with his love for a dog. And there are, of course, there's twists and turns along the way in the book. And it's just a very exciting book. And, of course, the boy's name is Silas. And a little farm boy, you know, what else? It has to be Silas. And Sophie is a little brown Cocker Spaniel. That is what she is. And one line I will give you from the book, because the book rhymes, is when he found her, she had a nose that was so rosy, he decided to name the new pup Sophie. And that's how it all came about. And it's a very heartwarming book. And in these times, James, with what's going on in today's world, we really need something heartwarming.
Yes, we do. So the book does take you on a journey. I read it. It does take you on a journey. I will say that. So it's not just this like whimsical kind of just like.
No.
Yeah, book.
Yeah, there's a little journey behind it, a little nail biting, and I will say a wonderful happy ending at the end. But yeah, it's a little journey. The dog goes on a journey, meets a couple characters along the way, and it is quite interesting.
Yes, it is. So I want to go back to the beginning. And so you decided to write a book after all these years. Now, what made you decide? So you always want to do a children's book? That was always the goal?
Yes, because, I have been writing all my life, since college. It all began with Journalism 101. You name it, I have interviewed every major celebrity, including Oprah Winfrey, before the world really knew who she was. She did a little show out of Chicago called AM Chicago, and that is where I interviewed her, and it was the year that she was nominated for The Color Purple. And I will never forget this. I mean, I was shaken like a leaf. She pulled up her limo. She came out. She was as gracious as ever. And after I talked with her, and she also offered a lot of encouragement, that's when I just decided this business is for me. I really love this. And you name it, I've even interviewed O.J. Simpson's detective. So everyone, I mean, from celebrities all the way down. I've done feature stories, and I've also done stories on just the average folk on the street that has done something very interesting in their life. And that's how it all began.
So, okay, so you always want to do a children's book, and so you decided, I'm going to do a children's book now. Why now? What made you decide to do that?
You know what? because how it really began, as you know, I wanted to do it, but I have a neighbor that's a little boy. He's about 4 years old. And one day I got talking with him and I asked him what is his favorite book. And he looked at me and he said, "Book, what's that?" And I was flabbergasted. I'm like, "You're kidding."
Right.
Well, that provoked me all the more because, as you know, James, everything today is punching the buttons, and that's life today. And I'm like, you know what? I am doing the book. And I want to bring literacy back to children because one of the reasons is, I'm sure you know, it's a lost art. When I was a kid, probably even you, remember the series, the Golden Books? It's like you had to have them. When I was a little kid going to the pediatrician, there was no technology. There were no little screens. There was a round table in the middle of the room with about 50 children's books. Kids were laying all over the floor. My first girlfriend was Little Red Riding Hood. I went to bed with her. It was a treasure. And that is why in this book, we also have a couple blank pages too, where if the kids want to doodle or draw their own thing, make it personal, their own, that's the reason we did that. But that's how it was. And you know what? Also for the parents, I'm sure you remember, James, the old TV show, Family Affair. Remember Buffy and Jody? Every night they went to bed, what did they say? "Mr. French, read to us." And that's how it was. And I grew up that way. I'm sure you did. Mom, Dad, they read the book. Today, the parents don't either. Go, you know, everybody's busy. It's this busy world. And that's what I want to bring back. And of course, today, what's going on in the world? My opinion, we are kind of going back in time. As you know, people are spending time at home. People are cooking at home. We're going back to what was. And so why not back to reading? Spend some time with your children. And you know what? It's wonderful. It's also a bonding experience for the parents. And it's really where the child spends time with mom and dad. And also, one thing, last summer when the kids had summer vacation, there's a school in my neighborhood and they had a sign outside and it says, "Enjoy your summer vacation, but take 20 minutes out of the day to read a book." And that thought, aha. So that's one of the reasons I just want to bring back a lost art.
Okay, very good. You know, I don't know if you guys have where you are, but we have the little free libraries in LA now. These little
Mhm.
little libraries all over the city. You
Oh,
take
yes,
a
we
book,
have the
bring a
same.
book, take a book, and I like that idea. And one of the ones in my neighborhood, it's all kids books. So I kind of like the fact that
Oh,
kids
yeah.
can actually read them. And my kids and
Mhm.
grandkids, they all read. They're all readers. In my family, we're all voracious readers. And
Mhm.
I grew
And
up
you
with
know,
them all the time.
yeah, and you know, James, just like back in the day, remember the saying, reading is fundamental.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, it's great learning. And you know, a children's book is teaching children. They're learning characters, they're developing, they're learning about a dog. It's a wonderful thing. It's a great feeling.
Yes. Now, writing children's book. I've never written a children's book before. I'm an author myself, but I don't write children's books. So I'm just really curious. What it's like, what things you have to kind of have a good children's book, do you think? What elements?
Well, first of all, you have to decide, do you want to rhyme a story or not? We decided we want to rhyme. Children love rhyming words. So that is what we decided. And Travis and I, we turned into kids. We were going back and forth and throwing words at us and throwing words, I should say, at each other. And that is how it came about. And a children's book also has to be a story which makes the child feel good. You don't want a child going to bed at night crying and having nightmares, you know. So you make a book, but you want to have a little twists in it, a little turns. You want the kid to be a little scared, but in the end, it has a happy ending. And also you want the book to be very colorful. We were very choosy with our illustrationist. We went through several. I mean, I have been on phones from the East Coast to the West Coast. And finally, I decided on a lady by the name of Emily Craybaum, who was the illustrationist. And also you want a book to be colorful. I mean, look at our cover. I
That's
mean, it's
a very nice cover.
beautiful. You
Very
know,
nice cover. Yeah.
Sophie is, yes, Sophie is adorable. I mean, this is what you want. You want a book that sings. We also wanted to make the book this size, which is about an 8 by 10. I want the book to be larger for children. I want them to actually have something to hold in their hands. And that's how it is when you come with a child's book. And you sort of, if this makes sense, James, you sort of turn into a child. My brain went to 5 years old. You kind of think back, and it really and truthfully, it was a lot of fun doing it.
So I figure you have to write, because you're writing to children, you can't make it too complex. You gotta keep all the dialogue
Oh,
very
no.
simple, all the situations very
Exactly.
simple, so they can follow along with it.
Exactly.
The brain has to go back to being kind of childlike and simple to write it. Makes sense.
Oh, yes. Yes, I don't want a child saying, Mom, what's that? Wouldn't that be sad if Mom didn't know what that word was? So, no, you write a book, you get down on their level. That's what it is. You write for a child. And that is exactly what we did.
How do you and Travis hook up to write a book together?
Well, we were friends. Long story short, he used to do some odd jobs. And one of the jobs was he stained decks. And he came over one day to do it, and he heard some of my calls, Los Angeles and arranging celebrity interviews and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't tell him anything. And one day he looked and he says to me, what do you do for a living? And well, where do I begin? But anyway, I just told him some things in roundabout ways. And as it turned out, he said to me, oh, I'm an actor. And he was doing some stage work and things like that, and university plays. And that is how our friendship just started up. And that's how it came with the book. One day we sat and I says, you know what? And I love to help younger people. I don't want to make myself sound real old, but I like to help younger people. It's very encouraging in the business. We all need help somewhere, and that is how it just came about. And we sat down and I says, I've always wanted to write a kid's book. How do you feel about this? Threw some ideas his way, and that was it. And we would get together. It took a couple of weeks to do. We'd get together about 2-3 days out of the week, hour and a half meeting, cup of coffee, and that's how the book materialized.
Yes, I just turned 51 a few days ago, and so
You're a baby.
I'll take that, but not in Hollywood, I'm not. So in Hollywood, I'm old. For me, I like talking to younger people too. I always say it's not you. I mean, the ones in their 30s, 40s, 30s, 20s, I like helping them also and bringing them up. I'm working on projects with folks like our friend Casey Hutchinson. I'm working on a project with him, and I like writers. I like young writers.
I know Casey.
I know he does, our friend. I like younger writers that have something to say, and if I can help them along, it's like you too. If you can help them along, why not? It's all part of the same.
Exactly. And it's notoriety for Travis. And like I always tell him, one of these days, maybe he will continue on a writing career. Who knows? I mean, we haven't even decided. The book has a lot of options. It could go into a series. It could go into audio. We don't know. But writing a kid's book, it was a lot of fun. It was so heartwarming that it takes you back to being a kid. And I really enjoyed this whole experience. And like I said, James, I've been writing for years, interviews with stars, you name it, questions, millions of, like you have been doing. I mean, how it goes. But to write a children's book, that is different. It's a whole different genre. And, I've been writing on the soap operas and for years, and that's a genre in itself. So this just came and the response has been very good. I've received only positive things from everybody.
So you said you took your time finding an illustrator, right, to make sure.
Oh yeah.
So what was it about this illustrator that you were like, she's the one?
Well, you know what we liked first of all? I'm a little old school. To me, when you're hiring someone to do a job, you need to question first, whom is working for whom? And see, she was very nice. She did nothing without our approval. We sent the pages of the book. She did the illustration. Communication, as you know, James, communication is the key. When someone does not return a call, that raises my blood pressure. I understand maybe it cannot be in 5 minutes, but when 5 hours goes by and you don't hear, I'm like, what's wrong with this picture? Emily was wonderful. And like there was one change on Silas. We wanted his hand a little changed. We kind of thought his fingers looked a little different. Immediately, she changed it. She sent us another one back for approval. And that's how it was done. And the reason I did choose her, to answer your question, it was the open lines of communication and just the way she handled business. But, you would talk to some, well, I could do this and that, and this is what I do. In other words, if you don't like it, take a hike. You know, that would be the attitude. Where she did not have that attitude. She was just wonderful to work with and excellent communications.
So, what would your advice be to people who haven't written a book and decide, they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, 70s, deciding to write a book? What would your advice be to them?
You know what my advice is? Like I tell everybody in any business, do it. You want to do it, do it. Where I live, we just had a lady retire from the radio. She did the news for 35 years. She's actually an African-American lady, broke all barriers. First woman with all men. After 35 years, she retired. She's leaving on the 29th of May. The 30th of May, she has a production company. She's going into filmmaking. Would you believe that?
Sure.
I applaud her. I actually wrote a comment today in the paper. I applaud her. And like I said, that's everyone. Do it. You have that idea, go with it. Life is very short. I always say, not that I want to go tomorrow, but you know what, James? I'll say, I did it. I met that person. I talked to them. That's the type of person I am. And what's the worst that could happen? Yes, there's rejection, as you know. So someone says no, whatever. That's not a life sentence. But go and do it. Just like you're doing your job. You love what you do. Go and do it. I'm sure people come up to you and say, James, what are you doing that for? You want to do it. And that's my advice. Just go and do it.
Any more books you think out of you? Any more children's books coming out of you?
You know what? This is the first. I don't know. It is going very well. As I says, there could possibly be a series. Silas and Sophie can go in many directions, as you know, just like life itself. They're growing up. Silas is going to grow up. I mean, maybe he'll become a veterinarian. Sophie may have puppies. Sophie may pass away. Maybe her puppies will live on. Her legacy. There's a lot of direction, and this could all be different teaching for children. Dealing with death of an animal. Different. It could go in a lot of directions. So we have really thought of that. And then, as you know, when things go on, a series like soap operas. New characters are always introduced. Somebody comes out of the woodwork. Always. I don't think in Silas and Sophie you could come back from the dead, but there's a lot of ways and a lot of things that you could do. So yeah, right now it's all on the table and the options are all open.
Oh, that's cool. I think folks out there who want to try something, it's a great example of just doing it. Try it out, see what happens.
Yeah,
and
that's it. I mean, that James, that's what life is all about. I mean, every day is a gamble. We get up in the morning. We have no idea what the day is going to bring. We don't. You go out and you do it. I mean, this is exactly what you do. You want to adopt a puppy, go and do it. You want to have a child, go and do it. You want to get married, go and do it. You want to get divorced, go and do it. If
Right.
it isn't working out, that's your option. I mean, life is full of choices. And I was also very dear friends with, and I'm sure you know, Lee Phillip Bell from The Young and the Restless and the Bold and Beautiful. Lee and I were very close friends. And that was some advice Lee has given me. Do it. Like I'd say to her, Lee, Mark, she'd say, do it. It takes a yes. Do it. Just like they did. You know the story. I mean, she thought back in the day, my God, look at the empire they built. I mean, that's what you have to do. And if she never left Chicago and never left for LA, and her late husband Bill never took that gamble, like she says, we'd probably still be shoveling snow in Chicago. So that's what life is about. It's just a gamble, and that's my advice. And you know what? I have no regrets. I really love what I have done. I never thought I'd be an author of my own book, something I've wanted to do. Like I says, I would always say it, and it was just a matter of getting it down, putting the pen to the paper, and that was it.
What age group is this book for?
4 to 8. But it is amazing. I'm hearing from people with infants that are telling me they're grabbing towards the pictures.
Okay.
They like it. And I posted today on Facebook from a gentleman that is in his 30s. If you could believe this, he is a biker. and he's got the book and he likes it. He sent me a picture. He's like, I like this book. And he says, who knows, maybe I'll adopt the kid on eBay.
Yes,
But anyway, and he likes the book. So yes, and for an adult, I would think they would get an enjoyment out of reading it even to their child.
So where's the book? Is the book available online too, or just Barnes and Noble?
Yes, online, barnesandnoble.com. That's where it is at, barnesandnoble.com. You type in Silas and Sophie. And anyone also can go to my Facebook page if they want, Mark Edward Wilows with one L. It's a public page. Everything's there about Silas and Sophie, the links, all of that. And hopefully our interview will be there and more people will be watching. But yeah, that's basically it. So it's barnesandnoble.com. You type in Silas and Sophie and there's the book.
Very good. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. And what an honor, James, it was to speak with you. I have met you several years ago at the Emmy Awards. You probably wouldn't remember.
Yes, you're saying yes. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm wearing my purple suit, I guess, or something. I'm sure I was wearing.
Well, I got news for you. I was wearing my purple sunglasses.
There you go. Yes. It's a very small world. It's a very small world. I've been doing
it is very small. And you know, like even the entertainment business, I'm sure when you're there at the Emmy Awards, you have to pinch yourself like I pinched myself. Like, I don't believe this. But you know what? Somewhere down the line, because I've been doing this since a child, I always says it's going to happen. It's going to be. Sure enough, there I am on red carpet. So, I mean, that's what you have to do. And I do remember you. And when I was there, I'm like, wait a second. I remember James over there covering the Emmy Awards and all. And you know what? More power to you. That's me. You go out and do it. And you know what? No matter which way, James, it goes, but you could say you did it. Yep. And that's how I look at it.
I live my life that way. I do.
Exactly.
So tell folks where they can find you on the social medias.
Okay, well, I have the Facebook page. It's Mark Edward Wilows. That's M-A-R-K, Edward, E-D-W-A-R-D. And the last name is tricky because I always get two L's.
Yes,
but
exactly.
It's one L, W-I-L-O-W-S. I also have a public page, too, which is Mark Edward Wilows. So I have two of them. And that is where they could find me. I am also on Instagram. But I am really into Facebook. I love Facebook, back, forth, pictures, this, that. So that is why. Also, if they want to reach us, Silas and Sophie has an email address, silasandsophie@yahoo.com. So they can always reach us there. If they got any questions about the book, anything, silasandsophie@yahoo.com.
Okay, I'm writing that down. I'll make sure it's in the description, folks.
Yes, and they can reach me or Travis at that email address.
Okay. So it's, say it again. So it's Silas and Sophie at yahoo.com?
Yes, Silas and Sophie at yahoo.com. Silas is S-I-L-A-S and Sophie, S-O-P-H-I-E. And of course, and is A-N-D spelled out.
So folks do that. Thanks for being on the show. So the book is called Silas and Sophie. You can go ahead and get it, Silas and Sophie. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, barnesandnoble.com. Go ahead and get that and get it for the kids. Get it for the kidlets. I mean, it's their home.
Absolutely.
Their home.
Hey, great birthday gift, great Christmas gift, or just a great gift all around. And we also have on the back a little nice story too about why we wrote the book, about our values, about, you know, everything. So it's really a great book. I think you'll really enjoy it.
And I'm James Lott Jr. You can follow me where all James Lott Jrs are sold at James Lott Jr. and all social media platforms everywhere. And this podcast is everywhere on Facebook, the Facebook page, and between the pages of James Lott Jr. Go ahead and like there. The actual podcast version of this, the Hello Podcast listeners, it is on all streaming services, iHeartRadio, to Deezer, to Spotify, to Spreaker. It's everywhere. Go ahead and like it while you're there also. And we're on YouTube at JLJ Media, my channel, JLJ Media. Go ahead and subscribe there. Pass this along to every kid needs to hear this or see this, or parent needs to see this. Pass the interview along to them, and they may want to get the book for their kids. And everybody out there, please stay safe and sane during this kind of strange time period, and you should read.